We're back with another episode of the Ball Don't Lie podcast. I'm Jacob Fraser, hosting once again, and I'm joined once again by Cam Connolly. Welcome, Cam. How's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Fired up for the Sweet 16 here. It's been a great week. The round is, or great last week, round of 64, round of 32. A lot of unreal basketball games, and can't wait to analyze the Sweet 16 up here.
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, we've got our second chance bracket up. Our first bracket didn't do so well. I think Cam had Omaha making it to the Sweet 16, or maybe even the Elite Eight, said they were the St. Peters of this year. Turns
Yeah,
out that's not true.
no, I had definitely had some rough picks. Uh, I also had Purdue losing in round one. I had a few other ones. I think I had Ole Miss losing in round one also. Wasn't a great it wasn't a great go around for me.
The one thing we can say though is that you were right about St. John's. They turned out to be frauds and
Yes,
lost to Arkansas, obviously.
yes,
RIP to David's bracket. Little
yes.
shout out again.
But it does make me happy to see David's bracket go down. I must say, I'm a hater at heart, and I hated David's bracket.
Speaking of haters, we got a comment on one of our TikToks. I think you saw it. Told us to burn our brackets and question our ball knowledge. Fair enough, but that's the nice thing with ESPN. They give us a second chance. So let's just get right into it. Let's start with the Auburn Michigan matchup. What are you thinking here?
I'm, I'm really concerned about this Auburn team, honestly. I know they got past that tough Creighton team, but when I was watching them in round one, I was just amazed at how disinterested they looked. I still feel like I lean towards Auburn in this matchup just because they are still like they're so good on paper. Like they can do it all, really. But this Michigan team is a dangerous team. And if Auburn is going to show up and be as disinterested as they looked in that round one game, especially, I honestly cannot see them getting past Michigan. However, like I said, if they show up and they're ready, I don't think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, I'll pull up the preview of this matchup here. We've got obviously Auburn's got a better record. They're a 1 seed, but yeah, I mean 10-5 against top 25 teams. Michigan's 8-5, so it it could go either way for me, but I think I'm gonna lean Auburn here. I think they'll pull it out and make it to the Elite Eight. I Michigan looked good, but I question the quality of the teams that they played a little bit. I think that 5-12 upset against UC, I think it was UC San Diego, right?
Yeah,
I That was just overhyped from the beginning, and we kind of called that. There's always that
yeah,
1-5-12 that's a little bit too overhyped. So I'm leaning Auburn. I think we'll go Auburn here. If that's
yeah,
good
for
with
sure.
you. And yeah, we can move on to Ole Miss, Michigan State. I think it's a bit of a surprise that Ole Miss has made it this far. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly did not see this coming, and I was looking at my own personal brackets, and I don't even know how it's possible, but I didn't pick Ole Miss to make the Sweet 16 in one of my brackets. I kind of thought they were just a team that wasn't that good. I didn't think that they were really gonna make any noise. At most, I thought they were maybe win the first round matchup, but I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of this Michigan State team. I've learned to love Cohen Carr. My little brother, shout out to Jesse, absolutely loves Cohen Carr. He actually named his bracket Cohen Carr's GOAT. So I'd be doing a disservice to my brother by picking against Michigan State, and I don't think that Tom Izzo is going to be outcoached in the Sweet 16 here.
No, I would agree with that. I that matchup against New Mexico, with Michigan State was a really good one. I think New Mexico is a better team than Ole Miss, if I'm being completely honest. So I would say Michigan State pulls out this one. I was surprised that they put up 91 against Iowa State, but obviously Iowa State's missing their best player, so
Yeah,
it was a
that
bit of an
one,
easier road for them.
the Iowa State one, I was not shocked to see them go down. Like I said a few times in the last pod, they're down their best player. I think they were down their second best player as well, or one of their top four guys or something like that. Unfortunate timing for them, but I would have loved to see them at full strength in this tournament.
Yeah, 100%. I think they actually could have done some damage in the tournament had they been fully healthy. But let's move on to the Elite Eight here. Auburn, Michigan State. I'm kind of leaning Michigan State. I think in our original bracket we had Auburn going to the Final Four against Florida, but I think I've changed my mind here, and I'm going to lean Michigan State. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you here. Like I've said a few times, I'm a pretty big Auburn fan in the basketball department, but I just I'm so iffy on them. They just look like they do not care. And I've been saying Tom Izzo's praises on every chance I can. I think that Tom Izzo will have his guys ready to take down this monster of a one seed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Auburn is the number one overall one seed. And I think I just I'm just I was turned away by what I saw in the first two games. I honestly didn't think they were going to get past Creighton. I'm a little bit surprised to even see them in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that was a questionable one for me too, especially with Creighton's big man Kalkbrenner or whatever his
Mhm.
name is. I just thought that would be a rough matchup for them, and it turned out to be a little bit of a rougher matchup. Obviously, they ended up winning the game by 12, 82-70, but I think it was closer than the score says. And I just think Michigan State's going to be able to pull this one out and make their way to the Final Four. So let's pencil that in there. And let's move over to the East here. Duke, Arizona. This was the matchup we had in our original bracket. And we
Yes.
said Duke is going to choke against Arizona. I think watching this Duke team, I've changed my mind on that. Cooper Flagg, obviously, I think he might be the best player in college basketball. And they're a pretty deep team as well.
hmm I was hoping that you weren't going to, or not hoping, I was scared you weren't going to be able to change your mind on this one because as as good as Arizona's looked, and I'm a huge Caleb Love guy, that Duke team is just a force to be reckoned with. Like, I am just blown away at how they are just dismantling these teams. And I was expecting, I obviously everyone knew they weren't going to lose in round one, but I was expecting it to be a little bit of a tougher game in round two. But they gave Baylor absolutely nothing. I mean, the former teammate Freddie Roach, I felt kind of bad for him. He must have been second guessing himself the whole entire way after about the first 5 minutes of why did I leave Duke? I had an easy path to the Final Four and I left.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people have Duke winning this year. I don't know if I see that, but I definitely don't see them stopping in the Sweet 16 to an Arizona team. We'll move on. We'll move Duke on here, and we'll touch on this BYU Alabama matchup. I think this one's going to be like a 90 to 80 point game in favor of Alabama.
Yeah,
I
that's
just don't see BYU having the defense to be able to slow down Alabama's offense.
yeah, I have to agree. Although I do think that it'll be a little bit closer. I do think that it'll be a high 80s, 90 point kind of game. BYU is just I see them as a little bit of a Walmart version of Alabama. However, a very high quality Walmart version of Alabama. You
Yeah,
got to find you got to go into like the expensive section of Walmart to find BYU, but I think it'll be close, but like I said, I could see maybe a 5, 7 point victory. I don't know if it's going to be 10 or more for Alabama, but I mean, this Alabama team is so potent on offense. It's ridiculous. Like just watching them, I just couldn't believe it. They had a bit of a scare against oh, now I'm blanking on who their first round opponent was. But then they just started to
Robert
pull away.
Morris.
Yeah, Robert Morris. And then I was like, oh, Robert Morris sticking around my bracket is in a lot of trouble. But then they just overwhelmed them. It was just bang, 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 bang. I don't see a lot of teams that will be able to keep up with that.
Yeah, I mean, as we see here, 90, almost 91 points a game, just shy of that. And let's see what the spread is here. 5.5. I feel like that is actually a really good spread. Like you said, like 6, 7 point game. Um, Little TikTok joke there, whatever. Um, but yeah, I think we can both agree Alabama, they're gonna squeeze this one out in a high scoring matchup, but then they take on Duke, and I think Duke's defense gets it done here. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Duke is just looking so good. Like just scary. I had originally thought that Alabama could get past Duke, but I I don't know. If like Duke is just a well-oiled machine. They can beat you however they want, whenever they want, pretty much. And uh, I struggle to see a way that, well, I don't struggle to see a way. I know how they could do it. They could score 95 points on Duke, but I don't know if that could happen.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. And like you're saying with the Robert Morris matchup in the first round, that kind of scares me a little bit. They can't let a team like Duke stay in that close of a game. They if they want to beat Duke, they've got to go on a run early and then keep the distance, and
Yeah,
I just don't see that happening. So yeah, I don't love picking chalk like we are here, but we're going Duke. We did go Michigan State, I guess they're 2 seed. It's still
yeah.
kind of chalk, but we'll move down here. We'll move to the West, Florida, Maryland. We had Florida winning the national championship in our first bracket. I I've really liked what I've seen out of Derek Queen in Maryland. He's going to be a top 10 pick in my opinion. I
hmm
wasn't 100% sold on him being a top 10 guy before the tournament, but I think just the way that he's played, I've had a closer eye on him. He's a legit center in the NBA and can score in multiple ways. He might give Florida some trouble, but I just think the guard depth that Florida has. Obviously, we saw Walter Clayton just go off in the game against UConn. I think Florida still finds a way to squeeze this one out.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the nickname of Maryland starting five, the Crab Five. And full transparency, Maryland is probably one of the teams that I watched the least through the first two rounds. Just busy schedule, timing didn't work out. But from about the 20 minutes or so that I saw them play, I was in love with them. They're really exciting, really fun to watch. I mean, I've been waiting for a buzzer beater. I actually had the chance to see that buzzer beater live, and that's the first March Madness buzzer beater that I've actually caught in real time. I think in 2 or 3 years. It's been a while since I've seen one in real lifetime. And there's an unreal ending to that game against Colorado State too. Like I thought for sure that game was over when they hit that three with about what was it, 3.2 left or something.
Yeah.
Did Derek Queen travel? I think it was a gather step, but we'll see.
Yeah, it was a little questionable, but
But
at the end of the
unfortunately,
day, he hit the shot. They called it a good basket, and that's
yeah.
game.
But yeah, I think unfortunately, I'm only going to get to see the Crab Five for one more game.
Yeah, I would agree. Speaking of buzzer beaters, I think the one buzzer beater that really sticks out to me. I mean, we talked about the Jalen Suggs one that lost me money last podcast, but I remember watching Jordan Poole
Yes.
at Michigan, his buzzer beater live. That one was sweet. I became a Michigan fan and Jordan Poole fan after that. Since then, not so much of a Jordan Poole fan, seeing
Yeah.
what he's doing in the NBA,
I mean,
but
while we're on the topic of buzzer beaters, when I was probably about 9 or 10 maybe, very first time watching March Madness, and Aaron Kraft hits a huge three. I think there was about 2 seconds left on the clock. I don't know if it was a true buzzer beater, but I was cheering for the other team. I can't even remember who was playing in that game, but I remember I went to the park and I practiced that shot like 25 times in a row.
yeah, so we're gonna have Florida moving on here. We'll move on to Texas Tech, Arkansas. Arkansas, obviously the team that upset St. John's. You can call it an upset. They beat Kansas. I I mean JT Toppin's a really good player, but do you think Arkansas can get it done again? Coach Cal and his team?
See, I was a I was a non-believer in Arkansas this year, and of course, because every other year that Arkansas has been in the tournament, I've been a believer, and they've always let me down. And then this year, they hire Coach Cal, known March Madness choker, so I pick against them, and here they are in the Sweet 16. I don't think I'm going to make that mistake again. I think I'm going to go with Arkansas here.
Yeah, I think the thing that scares me with Texas Tech, you look at their top 25 record. They've only played 5 games and they're 1-4.
hmm
That that's a little bit questionable. Obviously, they have better points per game and they give up fewer points per game, but I really like Boogie Fland. I think he's a dog. I think they can squeeze it out too. I was hoping you would go Arkansas here because then we can agree on that and we can finally pick a bit of an upset. So yeah, let's put Arkansas through to the Elite Eight and they take on Florida. I I think that's where their tournament's going to end. I still have Florida as my favorite, but I assume you have the same. But I'm curious what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately am gonna have to agree with you. I like many others hate picking all 1 and 2 seeds to go to the Final Four, but like especially on this side of the bracket, I think it's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like it sucks, and honestly, it's a little bit boring. But like, what can you do? At some point, it's just a fact, and the fact is, Florida is a very good team, and Florida is going to the Final Four, if not farther.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the way that this tournament has gone, it's been pretty boring overall. And so it might be safe, but at the end of the day, it's honestly likely what's going to happen. I don't see Florida. Maybe they could lose to Maryland here. It might be a close game, but if they take on Arkansas in the Elite Eight, I don't see a chance that they lose that game.
And this might be a controversial take, I don't know, but I actually think that yes, it was more of a boring start to the tournament, but it could make for a more exciting end because yes, it sucks picking all 1 seeds and stuff to go to your bracket, but at the end of the day, it's going to be higher quality basketball in the finals. Yes, you don't get those huge signature March moments, but let's be honest here. Who wants to watch an 8 seed take on the 4 seed in the national championship, right? There's not a whole lot of people out there. I know that for me, and this might be a non-purist take or something, I don't know, but I lose interest a little bit when I see the 8 seeds make the finals. No one wants to see the 8 seed in the final. You want to see a 12 or lower seed, or you want to see a top 3 seed.
Yeah, you think back to St. Peter's, like they got blown out when they took on, I think it was Kentucky, right? Or maybe it was North Carolina.
I
I
I
think it
think
was
it was
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah, yeah. And they just got blown out in that game. And like it was awesome to see the Cinderella run, but then when the run finished, it was like, oh, this was a terrible game. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't entertaining to watch.
yeah.
So
And
yeah, I
who wants to see UConn win by 40 in the final?
yeah,
It's just boring.
exactly. I want to see another Villanova UNC matchup
Exactly.
where we have the buzzer beater to finish the national championship.
Yeah, that was unreal. I was at a Canucks game when that happened, but I was watching it on the TV intermission.
All right, let's switch over to the Midwest here. You had Purdue losing in the first round. Do you have them losing to Houston in the Sweet 16? Or have you learned from that mistake from the first round?
I am the king of the Purdue hater fan club. I hate Purdue. I'll put my hat on of the president or king, whatever you want to call me. Purdue should not be here. They should have lost in round 1. I don't care what anyone says. I was watching that game. They got bailed out. That game was terribly officiated. I don't believe in them. And you think I'm going to believe in them to beat a 1 seed? Hell no. And I'm not a believer in Houston either. I don't think Houston is that good, but they are better than that terrible Purdue team.
Yeah, I'm not so much a believer in Houston either. I just don't think they have the offense to squeeze out these closer games later on in the tournament. Obviously, they took down Gonzaga, who we thought could maybe go on a bit of a run, but that was a close game in itself. And Purdue, they've had a bit of an easier ride to the Sweet 16, took on High Point and then McNeese State. So I'm going to take Houston here. I think their defense is just too overpowering to allow Purdue to squeeze through.
To that guy in the TikTok comments who's chirping me about my Purdue takes, all right, you watch. You watch. They're going to lose in the Sweet 16, and I don't think it's going to be close.
I mean, I think it'll be a closer game just because Houston's offense isn't outstanding or anything. But yeah, I mean, we look at their points per game. Houston is only allowing 58.4 points per game. I don't see Purdue putting up more than 70 points, and Houston can put up 75, and squeeze
What's
out
the
a
spread on that
5-point
one?
win. 8.5.
Yeah.
I think that's a little high. I might hammer the plus 8.5 there, but
I'm going to do my own advanced line. I'm taking Houston minus 20.5.
yeah, I think that's a little high. I won't tell with you there, but we'll move on to Kentucky, Tennessee. I think this game might be a really close, exciting matchup.
This game is the one I'm looking forward to the most, I'd say, in the first round, because you're left with this question: can you beat a team 3 times in a row? Because Kentucky has beat Tennessee twice, but can they do it a third time on when the stage is the biggest? I mean, I don't know who the favorite is off the top of my head. I'm not sure if it says there,
Tennessee
but
is, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Tennessee's the favorite on the book. You've beat them twice already. They know everything about you, but at the same time, you got to turn around to Tennessee. These guys have beat us twice, and now we have to play them again. Are they gonna sit there and are they gonna panic? You're like, oh, because I know if I was on Tennessee, I'd be a little bit worried knowing that we've lost these guys twice already. Or are they like licking their chops, thinking we finally get our chance to get back on these guys who already got us twice?
Yeah, we see the two matchups there. They played January 28th and lost to Kentucky 78-73, and then played again on February 11th and lost 75-64. So they're both games within 10 points. It's only 14 points total that they've lost by in their two matchups. But I think Kentucky sweeps the season series in the biggest game of their seasons up against each other. I'm curious where you'd lean. I might have already bet Kentucky money line here, but where would you go?
Yeah, I find it hard to pick against a team that's won twice, right? Like if I had to put money on this game, I'd be more comfortable putting my money on Kentucky. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Kentucky, but if Tennessee wins, like I won't be surprised. I'm hoping that this game is just like a 3 or 2 possession, 1 possession game the entire way, and we get 1 or 2 possessions at the end that make or break the entire game. And I think that's what we're headed towards.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this might be one of the classic matchups that we see for years to come at the end of this one. But yeah, I think we're gonna give this win to Kentucky here. And now they take on Houston. This is a very interesting matchup to me. I mean, you see Kentucky's putting up 85 points per game, but Houston's only allowing 58.4, as we just mentioned. I think Kentucky's offense gets it done here, but I mean, we did talk about how we're not really big believers in Houston, but where would you go?
This one is almost equally as tough as the most recent Kentucky-Tennessee one. I mean, we got the battle of the unoriginal logos here. I am not a believer in Houston, but something in me, my gut, my brain, my heart, I'm not sure what it is telling me Houston. And I don't know why. I don't want to take Houston. I want to take Kentucky, but I don't know if it's Kentucky's history in March, because I don't think they've made the finals since, or even the Final Four or anything like that since Anthony Davis was there. So I don't know if it's just the history or what. But something tells me that I need to take Houston. And like I've made very clear, I don't believe in Houston for 1 second.
Yeah,
But
the one thing that sticks out to me here, we look at their notable results on ESPN, and Kentucky's had some games with like Alabama that have gone to the wire. We just talked about how they've taken down Tennessee. They beat Gonzaga earlier in the season too. And those are all high scoring games. I just don't know if Houston has the offense to be able to put up the numbers they'll need to beat Kentucky.
yeah, I mean, that is completely fair. And you know what? Let's just go with Kentucky. I
Let's
think
go
that
Kentucky.
you make a good point where I don't know, a lot like St. John's, I don't know if Houston can do it. It's just I have something, my gut, my brain, I don't know what it is. Something is telling me Houston, but when you actually like look at the metrics, yes, Houston is the higher like net rank seed, But offense versus defense, the story long or the argument of history, what will prevail? And I guess we're going to go with the offense in this one.
Yeah, usually not a good look because everybody says defense wins championships, but good thing that's the Elite Eight and not the championship game. So we'll go Kentucky, and we'll stay on Kentucky here. Let's go the Duke Kentucky matchup. Where do you think this one goes? Do you think Cooper Flag in his freshman season is competing for a national championship, or do you think it ends in the Final Four?
I truly think that Duke will be in the finals. I just don't see too many teams that are going to even be able to hang with them. And especially if you don't let a strong defensive team take them on, I honestly, I don't think that Kentucky will be anywhere close. Now, I know that they faced off in November, I think it said, and Kentucky actually got the win, but I think that Cooper Flag has more experience now. They kind of know what they're doing, and I think that I have to give this one to Duke. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a few different times. Like it's hard to beat a team twice. Obviously we had Kentucky beating Tennessee 3 times on the season, but I just think they played, as we can see, November 12th, 2024. Like it's been 4 months since they've played each other, and Duke's come a long way since then. So I think Duke gets it done here. I just think their defense matches up well against the Kentucky's offense, and then they have the offense to back it up as well and to go on some runs and take down a lead offensive team in Kentucky.
Yep, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Let's move over to the other Final Four matchup here. We've got Michigan State taking on Florida. We had Florida in the national championship in our last bracket. Do we stick with that, or do we want to switch things up here? I'm leaning towards sticking with it. I still think Florida is the best team in this tournament, but where are you leaning?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you here. Like I've already said this episode, Tom Izzo is an unreal coach. But what I saw Walter Clayton do last game, I just I thought UConn was going to get it done. And shout out to Liam McNeely, by the way. He scored 9 points in the last 11 seconds. That was unreal basketball. I honestly wasn't too much of a believer in Liam McNeely before this tournament. But what I saw, I think that any team would be lucky to have him in the NBA. But Walter Clayton, oh my goodness, that was messed up, man. Uh, I can't take Michigan State over Florida here.
Yeah, let's go Florida. Like you said, Walter Clayton, that three that he hit, I didn't think he's going to pull that in the last game, and he just pulled guy hand in his face and drilled it. So, yeah, I mean, it's boring like we've been saying, but one seed versus one seed in the finals, Florida Duke. Who comes out with a national championship?
Uh, this one, this one is probably the hardest one we've had to pick out of any single matchup, maybe that we've done. We've done a full bracket and now we're on our second chance bracket. And I want to go with Florida, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if Duke's inexperience will be able to handle Florida on that stage. If they were playing in just a normal gym on a random Tuesday, I would be more comfortable picking Duke over Florida. But in a football stadium in front of 80,000 people with probably 10, 15, 20 million people watching on TV, I really don't think I can pick against the more experienced team in any situation. So I'm going to have to go with Florida still.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The experience prevails in this matchup in my opinion. I I don't see Florida losing. I've been saying I think they're the best team in the tournament. I'm sticking with that. We had them winning our original bracket, so we have them winning again in our second chance as well. I have a question for you though. How many points do you think Cooper Flagg puts up in a finals matchup against Florida?
Yeah, I could see this going one of two ways. One way is he's either going to explode. I think he could have 25 to 30, maybe even more, or he absolutely disappears and has about anywhere from 2 to 7. I don't really see a middle ground where he ends up with 12, 15, 18. I don't really see that as a possibility. I think that he's either going to absolutely disappear or he's going to explode. And I think this might be bold, but I think that is going to be a reflection of his NBA career, how he will perform in the final. Because we already saw it last summer where he was at the Team USA scrimmages and he was dominating from what we heard, right? From the clips we saw, he was dominating those Team USA guys. So we know he can do it behind closed doors. When the lights are bright, can he do it? And we still don't really have our answer. So I think it's going to be 2 or it's going to be 27. I won't be pessimistic here. I think he can do it. I think he'll have 27, 30, 35 in that range. But what do you think?
Yeah, my prediction for Cooper Flagg, assuming that they make the final, they take on Florida. My prediction would be 28 points and the rest of his team lets him down. I just think he's such a dominant player. I think he's going to be a great NBA player. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. He was asking me what I think the ceiling is for Cooper Flagg. Not ceiling, but where I think he'll end up. And my projection as far as impact, not play style, was Anthony Davis. I think like he'll be a really good all NBA caliber player. Not necessarily this generational type guy, but I just think whatever team takes him first overall is going to end up with their franchise cornerstone piece that they can build around. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to go get you 40 and be that microwave scorer that can just turn it on, but he's going to be a guy that can get you 25 to 30 throughout a whole game and just be consistent like that. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this tournament shakes out. I'm hoping we see a classic matchup in the finals, and I think this Florida Duke matchup could be that. Like this could be one of those classics that you every time March comes around, you see those videos on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, and you just get goosebumps and reminisce of these past matchups and tournaments. And if Florida takes on Duke, it very well could be that.
Oh, 100%. Anytime I see that Villanova championship buzzer beater, I'm turning it on. But no one remembers that insanely tough shot. I can't even remember
Oh.
who is Marcus Page, maybe? No, he hit the
No,
what
yeah,
was
I
his
think
name?
that's who it was.
The ridiculous shot by UNC.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but no one remembers it, which I just find unbelievable, by the way. That was one of the hardest shots I've ever seen on the biggest stage in a football stadium, and no one talks about it. I think that when we bring up that Villanova buzzer beater, we have to bring that shot up too. I had to get that out there.
100%. That was that would have been a tough finish at the rim, and he made it from 3.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. Anyone who's ever played basketball knows how hard of a shot that was. But it didn't win the game, and no one remembers second place. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I know this is a little off topic. I had to get this off my chest.
No, that's all right. Well, we'll wrap things up there. Thank you, Cam, for joining me, and thank you for listening to the Ball Don't Lie podcast. I think on the next episode, we might be coming out with some NBA play-in predictions and maybe a mock draft shortly soon as well. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.